you got in there, King Kong?
Jurassic Park is one of the greatest and most successful movies of all time and has spawned a franchise that has produced a frightening amount of mediocre to bad sequels.
Alan!
In this video, I'm going to be reviewing and ranking all 9 of them. Yes, 9, including the 2 short films. Why not? Because one of them is actually quite good. I'll also highlight the best dinosaurs in each of the films with a top 5 creatures list. I'll start, of course, with...
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Born out of Michael Crichton's blockbuster 1990 novel, Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park seemed destined to be a hit, so long as the technology was advanced enough for the premise. And it nearly wasn't.
So we sort of began a little experimenting to see how far the computer technology had taken us during Terminator, if we could go up to another level.
I can't say I can imagine what this movie would be like if it had been largely stop motion, but it nearly was.
I come home with my kids and look at this stuff over and over and over again. And my kids bought it. They said, wow, Dad, a real dinosaur. But I still saw the jerks. The movement was very accurate and very rhythmical, but there was still something a bit go-motion-y about it.
I'll have among the least to say about this movie because it's the most self-explanatory. It's a classic cautionary tale about the dangers of playing God, and it's basically an update on the Frankenstein story.
Our scientists have done things which nobody's ever done before.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
It's well cast, particularly with Jeff Goldblum, Richard Attenborough, and Wayne Knight of all people.
Hello, Newman.
If there's a complaint, it's that the human characters aren't strong. Alan Grant's arc is that he goes from hating children to tolerating them, and it's not as if there's anything to his relationship with Ellie Sattler, played by Laura Dern. Malcolm's far and away the most interesting character. Even though he's primarily there to spell out the movie's themes, he does so with such personality that he's so much fun to watch.
You're implying that a group composed entirely of female animals will breed?
No, I'm simply saying that life finds a way.
And this is perhaps the only film in the series in which the themes aren't a complete afterthought. They're well communicated, with conversations that consist entirely of ethical debates capable of keeping you glued to your seat.
The lack of humility before nature that's being displayed here staggers me.
Well, thank you, Dr. Malcolm, but I think things are a little bit different than you and I had feared.
Yeah, I know. They're a lot worse.
But above all, Jurassic Park is incredibly exciting and has numerous thrilling and terrifying sequences, with my favorites being the velociraptors in the kitchen scene and the initial T-Rex escape. The movie perfectly blends CGI and animatronics in a way that outshines even most effects-heavy movies made 30 years later. For the top 5 creatures here in the original Jurassic Park, I'm going with number 5, the Triceratops, number 4, the terrifying Dilophosaurus, number 3, the Brachiosaurus, which is the source of the scene with the most wonder in the entire franchise. And number 2, I have, of course, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And number 1, the Velociraptor. It's important to note, of course, that the Velociraptor was largely unknown prior to Jurassic Park, at least, by the general public. And, I mean, this movie has contributed to numerous misunderstandings regarding the Velociraptor, considering this is way bigger than a Velociraptor would have been in real life. Jurassic Park was my favorite movie for over 20 years, and though it's been past now, it's still a movie I could watch any day of the week. The same cannot quite be said for... I have a complicated relationship with this film. I loved it when I was a kid, and it might be the earliest film I remember seeing in the theater. To this day, there are still a lot of things I like about it, though it's inferior to the original in every conceivable way. While the original film took great liberties from the novel, this one departs from its source novel even more so, with Jurassic Park 3 actually having many more plot similarities to Michael Crichton's The Lost World. That seems like it would be a problem until you learn that Crichton's Lost World was a slap-together sequel written in order to guarantee Spielberg's involvement in the sequel. So we have director Steven Spielberg back, and he's clearly going through the motions. It's noteworthy that, with few exceptions, the films he's made since this have largely been dramatic and not would-be blockbusters. So he does seem to be sort of moving on from this type of filmmaking in 1997, but Spielberg's such a natural filmmaker that he can't help but make some compelling sequences, and he is so good at staging the effects and integrating them with real-world actors and stuntmen. Goldblum is the main returning actor, and while he was the most enjoyable player in the first movie, he seems out of place here. He's still cynical.
Oh, yeah, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and screaming.
But in many ways, he feels like a different character. This is probably due more to the script, as it doesn't allow him to have the same impact in terms of ethical debates. Goldblum's also just not cut out to be an action star. So we're on a second island here with dinosaurs roaming free, and there are two groups of people, one sent by a reformed Hammond and one sent by the more nefarious wing of InGen. While these groups are diametrically opposed, they eventually have to work together for survival, which is probably a more interesting character dynamic than anything else going on in the sequels, especially because the more technologically advanced group has actually been severely crippled by the good guys. And at the heart of this opposition, of course, is Roland Tembo, played by Pete Postlethwaite. Say what you will about this movie, or the series as a whole, but he is awesome. While he's essentially with the bad guys, he is far more reasonable than the company men or mercenaries, given that he's really just looking to hunt a T-Rex, and he actually sides with the good guys more often than you might think. His hunt for his white whale is my favorite part of the movie.
If you want me to run your little camping trip, there are two conditions. Firstly, I'm in charge, and when I'm not around, Dieter is. All you need to do is sign the checks, tell us we're doing a good job, and open your case of scotch when we have a good day. Second condition, my fee. You can keep it. All I want in exchange for my services is the right to hunt one of the tyrannosaurs. A male, a buck only. How and why are my business. Now, if you don't like either of those two conditions, you're on your own.
There are two true standout sequences here, with the herbivore hunt being the first one. It's so much fun and is such a great introduction to many dinosaurs that we at best got mere glimpses of in the previous film. Like my personal favorite dinosaur, Parasaurolophus, which was just sort of featured in the background in the first one, and Pachycephalosaurus, which is a fantastic addition. The other real standout sequence is the velociraptors in the long grass. I love how this movie makes you wait for them. After being such a pivotal part of the first movie, you would expect them to be heavily involved here, and while they eventually are, they don't even show up until over halfway through. But they don't disappoint. Until they do, which is what will lead me into the negative aspects of the movie. It's dumb. The gymnastics scene is terrible, but at least it's only like 10 seconds. The movie also becomes a Godzilla film with the T-Rex rampaging around San Diego, which unfortunately is a lot longer than 10 seconds. The entire thing seems tongue-in-cheek, and it's such a drastic shift from the rest of the movie. I think had the movie ended with the heroes being saved by the helicopter, it actually would have been better. There are also way too many characters here. Of the bad guy groups, there's too many of them. Like, Roland has his right-hand man that's barely a character in the movie. He gets a few deleted scenes if you've ever seen like an extended edition where there's a little bit more to him. But yeah, there's just too many people. As for some new additions, of course, the Stegosaurus making its first appearance. I like this scene up until a point. It is kind of the recreation of the Brachiosaurus scene of wonder from the original, but then it also becomes an action scene, which just kind of shows that this movie just doesn't have the same feeling as the original. And I do like the two T-Rexes, and well, actually three, because we have the juvenile. The juvenile is annoying in terms of the noises it makes, but whatever. It's a key plot point. The T-Rexes are better on the island than the T-Rex is when it's in San Diego. So top 5 creatures in the Lost World Jurassic Park. You know, I'm giving the herbivores some love here, and I'm not going to include the Compsognathus, even though I think that's an interesting creature to add here. But number 5, I'm going with the Triceratops. The scene of it rampaging through the camp, some of the best looking effects in the entire series. Number 4, the Stegosaurus, of course, prominently featured. Number 3, the Pachycephalosaurus. a minor part in this movie, but it leaves an impact. Number 2, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's not number 1 because of all the San Diego stuff and how dumb that is. So number 1, once again, the Velociraptor.
That is one big pile of shit.
I can't stand Jurassic Park 3, and a lot of it boils down to just personal preference, of course. I don't think it's a good movie, but I don't think it's genuinely awful. Still, I seem to hear more people speak positively of this than The Lost World, and that just baffles me. A checked-out Spielberg is still better than Joe Johnston's best work, even when he's somehow dealing with the script from the Academy Award-winning screenwriters of Sideways, which I consider to be the best American film of the century.
No, if anybody orders Merlot, I'm leaving. I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
Jurassic Park 3 makes clear what this series is moving forward. This isn't a series about intelligent science fiction and the repercussions of playing God. This is a series about monsters. Sure, the San Diego sequence of The Lost World opened that rabbit hole, but Jurassic Park 3 barrels through it in a way that the series would never be able to recover. Alan Grant's the big returning character this time, and he's actually pretty compelling in the first act, especially given there wasn't much to him in the first movie. He acknowledges something that the other sequels forget.
Dinosaurs lived 65 million years ago. What is left of them is fossilized in the rocks, and it is in the rock that real scientists make real discoveries. Now, what John Hammond and InGen did at Jurassic Park is create genetically engineered theme park monsters, nothing more and nothing less.
But then he also thinks they're still kind of worth studying, and he's somehow able to 3D print a Velociraptor resonator from a skeleton that actually works on these genetically modified, mixed with frog DNA dinosaurs, so even the movie is inconsistent with this, to be fair. The supporting cast lets the movie down, with Billy being perhaps the worst character in the entire franchise. And the Kirbys have a bit of depth, but the movie's a bit too quick to forgive them for their duplicity, even if their duplicity is ultimately justified because it's an effort to find and rescue their son. And sort of like Goldblum in The Lost World, just William H. Macy doesn't really feel like he belongs in this movie. I mean, he kind of does, because he's not the badass adventurer that he initially claims to be. But this is also so obvious just looking at him that it's kind of frustrating that it takes Alan and Billy a while to realize it. Yep, this is the third Jurassic movie, and the third in which we've got kids in danger. The franchise will just not let this idea go. When things get going on the island, it moves quick. The movie is the shortest in the franchise. It is a very fast-moving movie, and it's entertaining enough initially, leading up to the T-Rex versus Spinosaurus fight, that's disappointing on a few levels. 1, it's too short. 2, it should come at the end. This is something Jurassic World, for all its problems, gets right. The dinosaur v. dinosaur fight should be the climax. And 3, it signposts that this is indeed the Spinosaurus movie. When I first saw this and saw that the Spinosaurus killed the T-Rex, I was like, oh, that's fine. We saw 2 adult T-Rexes last movie, and there was even a juvenile that might even be an adult by now. They'll come back and right this wrong. But no, it's all Spinosaurus all the time, except for a few underwhelming Velociraptor sequences, including the most underwhelming ending since The French Connection. The Pteranodon scene's okay, I guess. It was about time we got these guys involved. Jurassic Park 3 is short, but not very sweet. It's a mediocre monster movie that kind of shits on the dinosaurs you loved in the previous movies, and its big attempt to recreate that Spielbergian wonder is shockingly hollow, given that it comes 5 seconds after Billy's supposed death, and over halfway into the movie. I'm not sure I've done a great job articulating why I dislike this movie so much. It does lack all the heart of the first movie, but that mostly applies to The Lost World and all subsequent sequels as well. But Jurassic Park 3 is sort of an ugly movie. It abandons the rainforest aesthetic for a more woodland look with leaves on the ground and much darker lighting. This is the third Jurassic movie to feature a new cinematographer, and while the DPs behind the previous two were responsible for The Thing, Back to the Future, and Spielberg's West Side Story, Shelley Johnson's worked on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 and the first Captain America movie. The dinosaurs are also ugly, and I don't mean the effects, which are probably a bit worse than the previous two films due to the occasional dodgy green screen effect and a bit less fluid movements in the animatronics, but they all kind of look like the Spinosaurus with this reddish, sort of freckled look, and it's just kind of ugly to look at. The movie's also oddly structured. While we understand that the initial attack scene is due to an unseen Spinosaurus, most of the first act sets up the Velociraptors as the ultimate threat, only for them to be a letdown.
Were it not for the cataclysmic events which overtook them, it is entirely possible that raptors, rather than humans, would have become the dominant species.
And easily overshadowed by the Spinosaurus. You might be tempted to say this was an attempt to surprise the audience, but I'm going to disagree given that the Spinosaurus is on the poster. This was the last Jurassic movie for over a decade, and it's not difficult to see why. So top 5 creatures in Jurassic Park 3. Number 5, the Velociraptor. Of course, I love the Velociraptor, back-to-back number 1 creature in Jurassic Park movies, but this time just falls short. The first act with Alan Grant sets it up as this is going to be this big Velociraptor movie. These are the smartest creatures the world has ever seen. They do indeed set a trap, but otherwise they're just not that exciting. The raptor scenes are underwhelming. Number 4, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Not much more than a cameo. It's great to see it. The animatronic looks amazing. Tough to see it go out like that. Number 3, the Ankylosaurus. Not much to say, just a pleasant addition. Number 2, the Pteranodon. A little unrealistic. I mean, that goes without saying with most of these creatures, but still some fun. And number 1, even though I don't love what it kind of does to the other creatures, number 1 is clearly the Spinosaurus, who is featured in one really good action scene, to be fair. If you have a series that spawns from one classic movie, but you're facing diminishing returns with the sequels, just wait a decade or two before a reboot and you've got guaranteed box office returns. That's what Colin Trevorrow and team learned with what's the most financially successful film in the franchise. The big story wrinkle here is that the park is finally open and fully functioning. So yes, we get some chaos with dinosaurs running amok, but we're somewhat limited in terms of species, which is unfortunate. The big scene of chaos is all pteranodons and dimorphodons, but the main creature here is the biggest problem I have with the movie. Dr. Henry Wu, the only returning character from the previous films, has spliced multiple dinosaurs together, creating a new species known as the Indominus Rex. This series moving towards fictional dinosaurs is a bridge too far for me personally, as a big dinosaur fan, but the movie does right this wrong by the end. But it's very stupid how this even comes to be, as it's reportedly done because people are becoming unimpressed and bored with dinosaurs, but every glimpse of guests we see in this park suggests the opposite. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard are our new blood here, and while their characters are underwritten, I do think the two have good chemistry together, and their scenes together work better for me than I'd have thought, given the cliched writing. The human villains here are a problem. Henry Wu is one thing. Sure, if you've just seen the movies, you get the impression he's just a random scientist who happens to be on the floor when Grant and the others are there. But if you've read the novel, you'll know that Crichton conceived him as the true mastermind behind Jurassic Park. But seeing him go full supervillain is certainly odd, though he's still far better than Vincent D'Onofrio, who wants nothing more than to use trained dinosaurs as military assets.
Do you hear yourself when you talk?
Owen Grady's been training the Velociraptors, but really just the way you'd train any dangerous animal at a zoo. You train it enough so that it doesn't kill random employees. So this aspect is probably less dumb than it sounds on paper, but D'Onofrio pushes it over the ledge. But speaking of dumb, the Indominus Rex escapes because park employees willingly open its cage after like 30 seconds of not being able to find it. It's absurd. I couldn't believe the writers couldn't have come up with a better way for the thing to escape. I'd have even preferred a recycling of the corporate spy plot to this. It probably sounds like I hate this movie, and truth be told, I think I did until the last 15 minutes or so. But then we get a tag team of T-Rex and Blue the Velociraptor against the Indominus Rex. It's so thrilling, even if dumb, that it makes up for so many of the film's shortcomings, and had the next 3 films not gone the direction they went, I'd have thought this was the franchise acknowledging that it would never let real dinosaurs be outshined by their science fiction imitators. I also love the addition of the Mosasaurus, though I confess I don't know how InGen could have possibly gotten DNA from a mosquito bite of a strictly aquatic animal. So a lot of creatures here, new and old, and the top 5 in Jurassic World. Number 5, Ankylosaurus. Number 4, the Indominus Rex. As I've said before and will continue to say, I don't love the fictional dinosaurs, but this is so heavily featured and it's the main antagonist, it has to be somewhere in the top 5. Number 3, the Mosasaurus. One of my favorite details of this as a functioning amusement park is the Mosasaurus exhibit. I think that would be so cool. Number 2, the Velociraptor, of course, Blue being the featured one, and number 1, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. The movie makes us wait for it, but it does not disappoint. I have plenty of complaints about this movie, but at the end of the day, I do sort of enjoy it. I think it's a film that illustrates all the flaws in blockbuster films since the original's release, but I like a lot of the creativity with the park, and some of the scenes are pretty thrilling and capitalize upon excellent visual effects. While I complain about the lack of variety in terms of creatures wreaking havoc on the park, I think the T-Rex is saved so that it and Blue can become the heroes. We wouldn't be rooting for them as strongly as we do if they had been killing people like in the other films. I believe this is the most polarizing film in the franchise. I don't think anyone loves it, but plenty of people like it, and plenty hate it. I do think it's considerably better than some of the films following it in the series. It's dumb, but I think the movie does a decent enough job of justifying its stupidity within the story. With the exception of how the Indominus escapes. That's a line I won't cross. If you thought the first Jurassic World was dumb, its follow-up basically says, hold my beer. The first half of the movie is basically going through the motions, and one of the few things I appreciate about it is that the human villains reveal themselves pretty quickly, because it was pretty damn obvious what direction they were going to go. Yes, we have more characters intent on weaponizing dinosaurs, this time with a new species, Indoraptor, genetically encoded to follow a laser pointer and attack wherever that's aimed. So, in other words, a slower and much less effective bullet? When the Isla Nublar volcano erupts, we do get an absolute shit ton of dinosaurs, including new additions Baryonyx and Carnotaurus. And I'll confess, it is a little sad seeing all the dinosaurs that weren't evacuated died. But the movie really gets started at the mansion of Benjamin Lockwood, Hammond's previously unseen and unmentioned business partner, who, like Hammond in The Lost World, is seemingly benevolent but frequently overruled by his far more maleficent underlings. He's also got a granddaughter, because we need children in danger, and she turns out to be a clone because, well, I don't really know why. There's a top-secret dinosaur auction involving arms dealers, which is a fun concept, and this is when we're introduced to the Indoraptor, and the movie basically becomes an action-packed slasher film once it gets loose. The movie is so absurdly silly, and when it seems self-aware, it's pretty enjoyable. The sheer amount of dinosaurs here is a lot of fun, but of course it's disappointing to see the movie revolve so much around one, and in particular, a fictional one. I also think that despite the amount of species, few, if any, have standout sequences the way we've seen with not just raptors and rexes, but even stegosaurs, brachiosaurs, and ankylosaurs. So plenty of options here, and this was maybe the toughest top 5 of all of them. I think there's a clear number 5, and it's the Brachiosaurus, which has a nice little scene, vaguely reminiscent of the original. Number 4, I have the Indoraptor. It's going to be hard for any fictional dinosaurs to be higher than top 4, I think. It has its moments, but also doesn't really feel like a dinosaur. Is able to use its claws and too much as hands, and the way it climbs just doesn't feel like a dinosaur. And I think 1 through 3 are quite close, but number 3, I'm going with what I will call the Pachycephalosaurus. Online sources refer to it as the Stygimoloch. There is some debate as to whether that's its own species or if it's a subspecies, so I'll just continue calling it the Pachycephalosaurus, even though it does have the spikes that the Pachy did not have in The Lost World. It has a very amusing scene here. It's a lot of fun to see that thing running around and charging people and charging through barriers. Number 2, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Some of the oddest usage of the Rex in all of the series, it shows up in the first scene. It shows up in the middle to fight a Carnotaurus, and then it also has an amusing scene with it sleeping where they have to get a blood transfusion from it. And then we basically don't see it until the very end as like a post-climax thing of where it takes out the villain, and that's nice, but the T-Rex could have been utilized better. Number 1, of course, the Velociraptor Blue is the true hero of the film. Takes on the Indoraptor, this time by itself, without the help of the T-Rex, without the help of the Mosasaurus. Blue's a really fun character. There's only one Velociraptor here, so we're sacrificing the pack hunting element of the creature, but still great. The movie ends in a very odd way that really wrote the filmmakers into a corner with subsequent films, considering the dinosaurs have now been set free to roam the American landscape. I remember leaving the theater thinking that this was one of the dumbest movies I'd ever seen, and the only way I thought the series could salvage itself would be if they went full schlock and went some absurd Planet of the Apes route. Why not if it's going to be this stupid? That's not quite what they did, though. Battle at Big Rock is easily the hidden gem of the franchise, and I'm willing to bet many don't even know it exists, and many people who consider themselves fans of the series probably haven't seen it. Check it out. It's like 10 minutes long, it's on YouTube, and it's probably what you'd have wanted to see from a sequel in which people are living among dinosaurs. It's as simple and stripped down as can be, but it's quite effective. We get more children in danger, of course, because the series can't escape this, but given that the short film follows one family, I don't really have any complaints. The short is basically just a small glimpse of a family at a campsite that's at first peacefully interrupted by a family of Nasutoceratops, and then less peacefully interrupted by an Allosaurus. They fight, and after the herbivores safely retreat, the Allosaurus attacks the family. The film does a great job of showing the helplessness of just regular, everyday people when encountering a dinosaur scene, and I love the perspective. I also love when this series shows the dinosaurs' unique anatomical features being utilized practically, like the junior Nasutoceratops' frill, keeping it from getting its head crushed. I don't really like how the story concludes, but I love the additional found footage at the end, which was accomplished by taking existing videos on YouTube and seamlessly adding in the dinosaurs using CG. It's creative, cost-effective, and quite amusing. So at first it seems difficult to get to a top 5 creatures in a short film that really only features 2, except of course with the found footage stuff, giving us our numbers 5 through 3. Number 5, the Pteranodon. Number 4, the Mosasaurus. Number 3, the Stegosaurus. Number 2, the Allosaurus. And perhaps a surprising number 1, the Nasutoceratops. Love seeing them interact as a family, and I love seeing the frill act in a protective way, so that's why that one's number 1. I think this format is something I'd like to see more of in this series. It's a great way to feature unique species that don't get a chance to shine in other movies. The Allosaurus had been only briefly featured in Fallen Kingdom, and I love the episodic nature. You could just prop dinosaurs into any everyday scenario and it can be fascinating to watch unfold. Released in 2021 exclusively as an IMAX accompaniment to F9, the Jurassic World Dominion prequel was originally just supposed to be the first 5 minutes of that upcoming film before it was cut. Having seen it, I get why it was cut, But given that one of the biggest complaints of Dominion would be a lack of dinosaur action, I think this prequel gives you what you want to see. That having been said, I don't think it has much purpose. It opens like 2001: A Space Odyssey for some reason, with the dinosaurs interacting in the natural Cretaceous habitat and the mosquitoes serving the role of the alien monolith. We are introduced to a number of species we've never seen before, some of which we'll see in Dominion proper, such as Giganotosaurus and Dreadnoughtus. Though as a dinosaur nerd, I'd have liked to see some more realism in which species interact with each other. Geographically, Giganotosaurus and Dreadnoughtus would have been in the same general area, but no amount of continental drift could have put them anywhere near an oviraptor. In the present, a Tyrannosaurus interrupts a showing of a drive-in movie, which sounds a lot more fun than it is in reality, in part because it doesn't really escalate or conclude. If this is just meant to be a cold open, I suppose it makes sense, but it's still not that satisfying and quite underwhelming as an actual short film. So top 5 creatures. Number 5, the oviraptor. Looks great, but really just barely featured. Number 4, the Moros. I love the symbiotic relationship it has with the Giganotosaurus. I think that's something fun. Number 3, the Dreadnoughtus. One of the biggest creatures to ever live. It's great to see it. Number 2, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Yes, it stampedes through a drive-in. You'd think it should be number 1, but of course it loses to number 1 in the fight, the Giganotosaurus.
What's your story?
What? Jurassic World Dominion probably gets more shit than any other movie in the series, and I can't say it's difficult to see why. The plot is incredibly convoluted, the legacy characters don't leave much of an impression, and most damningly, dinosaurs are absent for too much of the movie, though the extended cut does fix that a bit if you don't mind seeing a Jurassic movie the length of the Lord of the Rings film.
At no expense.
Dinosaurs are now out and about in the wild. We don't get to see too much of their interactions with humans. We understand there's a black market for them, which is the movie's most interesting idea and leads to far and away the film's best sequence. We essentially have 2 plots here. We have Owen and Claire searching for their adopted clone daughter who's been kidnapped, and we have Ellie, Alan, and Ian working to expose Biosyn's evil ways that will lead to ecological decimation through genetically engineered locusts. I can't say it's what you want or expect from a Jurassic film, but I appreciate that it takes some risks even while it falls flat on its face frequently. There's little cohesion between the 2 plots, and when our characters finally meet, it's not really that clear who knows what about the other group. The legacy cast also kind of sucks, to be honest. I complained that Ian Malcolm didn't really seem like Ian Malcolm in The Lost World, but here he just comes off as Jeff Goldblum.
Had a dog once. Humped my leg so much, I got a callus on my shin bone. It's a true story.
I'd say Sam Neill feels the most like his original character, but there was never that much to Alan Grant to begin with, and Laura Dern doesn't seem like she knows what movie she's in at this point. And it's not like Owen and Claire were ever great characters. So what's good in this movie? Well, after nearly 20 years, we finally see the return of the Dilophosaurus, which is wonderful. Sure, we saw it as a hologram in Jurassic World, but this time it's properly featured. The effects are also excellent, with probably the best blending of CG and animatronics of the world films. And I love the amount of species we see. Most exciting for me, the Therizinosaurus, of which only the arms and claws have ever been discovered. Sure, it looks a little silly compared to the other menacing predators in the movie, but it's still a lovely addition. The design of the new dinosaurs is truly one of the film's strengths. While it's a low bar, this movie has by far the most scientifically accurate looking dinosaurs, in part because we see our first feathered ones. This has always been a touchy subject for me. I consider feathered dinosaurs to be my Christopher Columbus. You know, in the way that many people are in denial of Columbus being a horrible monster because they learned about him being this great man in elementary school. Well, when I was a kid, none of the books I had featured feathered dinosaurs, and I do think they look cooler if they don't have feathers. And if the franchise wanted to, it always had the frog or cuttlefish or whatever non-dinosaur DNA used to fill in the gaps to explain a lack of feathers. but I like that this film strikes a nice balance in introducing feathers for many newer creatures, while still sticking with the classic look for the ones we've seen for 30 years. If you look closely, you will notice that the T-Rex has feathers in the Cretaceous segment of the prologue as well. After lending some praise to the science of this movie, I'm going to have to nitpick as well. The Dimetrodon. Why? Not only is it not a dinosaur, but it predates the dinosaurs and the Mesozoic era completely. The thing would have been extinct for nearly 100 million years before the Dilophosaurus, which I believe is the oldest dinosaur featured in the franchise, showed up. We live closer to the Tyrannosaurus's time than the Dimetrodon does to any other animal featured in these movies. I don't think you're getting DNA from a mosquito bite of that thing. I do actually like that Dodgson is back, and the movie doesn't draw too much attention to him being a recurring character.
Dodgson! Dodgson! We've got Dodgson here!
It makes sense that the guy that hired Nedry to steal the embryos and give them to a rival genetics company would still be a key player years later. And both Dodgson and Biosyn are heavily featured in Crichton's Lost World novel. I also like that his death is an echo of Nedry's. Unquestionably though, the movie's at its best when it least resembles a Jurassic movie, with the black market action scene in Malta being the standout. It feels like a Mission Impossible or Bourne movie with dinosaurs, and it gets very creative and fun with how the animals are used. I really wish the movie could have had a lot more of this. It's a much more welcome setting than the generic clean laboratory as well. Like the previous Jurassic World movies, this one concludes with a massive dinosaur fight, this one between the T-Rex and slightly larger Giganotosaurus, with the Therizinosaurus jumping in later. But unlike the previous two films, there's no real build-up to this. The Giganotosaurus T-Rex rivalry is sort of set up in the extended cut, but the T-Rex still comes out of nowhere to get involved at the end. And yes, it literally came out of nowhere in the original Jurassic Park 2, but it was a much bigger part of that plot. It is nice to have no real fictional dinosaurs here, but I hate that Henry Wu is redeemed. Sure, novel Wu never should have been treated the way that the Jurassic World films treated him, but I'm not ready to forgive him for the Indominus Rex, and I don't know why the franchise is. Fallen Kingdom had tried something a bit different, but was stupid and generic. This movie tries something a bit different and is far more ambitious. It still misses its mark just as often as it hits, and it's still stupid. I think the movie's a little overhated though, but in a sea of mediocre sequels, it doesn't stand out. So the top 5 creatures featured in Jurassic World Dominion. Number 5, the Therizinosaurus. Number 4, the Dilophosaurus. Wonderful return. Number 3, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Number 2, the Giganotosaurus. And number 1, the Atrociraptor, which, sure, it doesn't look that great, but it's featured in far and away the best scene in the movie, so why the hell not number 1 there. We went as far as we could go with Claire, Owen, and Maisie, hell, probably even further, and the series attempts to get out of the holes written by the previous 2 films, with dinosaurs now being a rare occurrence in human-inhabited places. We also get exclusively new characters, who once again are thinly written. But at least we have arguably the 2 best actors in the series, Scarlett Johansson and Mahershala Ali, playing mercenaries hired by a shady pharmaceutical company to extract blood from the largest sea, land, and air dinosaurs. Though only one of these is actually a dinosaur, despite what the film's one paleontologist character says about them. It's a refreshingly simple story given the dumpster fire that the last 2 feature-length films started. And it features some of the most exciting dinosaur set pieces to date, leaning into the horror of the original film more than most of the sequels do. We get a lot of Mosasaurus action in scenes that remind you a bit of Jaws, and the T-Rex scene in the river is excellent. It's very easy to see which characters are going to die. We know pretty early on who the human villain is, so we're just waiting to see him get killed. 2 characters on the team are never properly introduced, so we know they're not long for this movie. The one does actually make it a lot further than I'd have expected. In addition to the main team, we eventually have a family thrown in with them for the required child in danger trope, and there's one character here who initially seems like he's going to die, but who redeems himself fairly early on. I don't like the family. For most of the movie, they're separated from the team, and with the exception of the T-Rex scene, their scenes are ones you'd want to fast forward through. The little girl does befriend an Aqualops that she names Dolores, and these scenes are surprisingly amusing, though they don't go anywhere.
The reason why our relationship is so good in the movie is because I was scared, and she just happened to crawl along and help me.
Since it's small, you'd kind of think that she befriended a juvenile, and that the animal's mother would come and save the day or something. But no, I believe this is fully grown, too. The climax involves more genetically modified dinosaurs, and I just hate this shit. These are the worst ones in the series. The D-Rex is far more kaiju than it is dinosaur. I just hate the look of it. The Raptor/Pteranodon hybrid is a bit more enjoyable, but the recreation of the raptors in the kitchen scene from the original just rings hollow. The T-Rex only gets one scene, and the Velociraptors only get about 10 seconds of screen time, resigned to the background. I'd have actually preferred them not to have Velociraptors at this point. Just let Blue and her daughter be the last ones, and let us know that they're still out there living. Don't give them this fate. I like Johansson in this movie quite a bit.
I have been trying to, edge my way into a Jurassic film for 3 decades.
Yes, her tragic backstory doesn't go anywhere, neither does Mahershala Ali's story about his young child, but I like the relationship between Zora and Henry. I like that she's a badass mercenary who's done a ton of illegal shit, but she's still got a heart and a conscience, and I like that Henry's overcome with wonder to see these animals in a mostly natural habitat. I like that there's a shout out to him having studied under Alan Grant, too. The set pieces with real animals are outstanding, though if you're like me, you will be disappointed by the lack of attention to the classics. The scenes with the hybrids are generic monster movie stuff like so many of the sequels fall into. It's a well-directed movie. It looks great. Several scenes are genuinely tense. It's just very poorly written. The top 5 creatures featured in Jurassic World Rebirth. This is going to be a hybrid-free list. Number 5, the Quetzalcoatlus. It was featured in the previous movie. It gets a better, more exciting, scarier scene in this one. They never explain why its nest is in like an old Aztec temple or something, which is kind of weird, but whatever, it's fine. The scale of this thing is truly amazing. Number 4, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Obviously a fan favorite. It's only in one scene, but it is a really good, tense scene. Number 3, the Titanosaurus. This thing is just huge. It's a great scene of wonder, maybe the best since the original. And the design, especially with the really, really, really long tail, makes it stand out from some of the other sauropods we've seen in the previous movies. Number 2, the Aqualops. This almost could have been number 1. It is adorable. The animatronics, puppetry, when it's practical, just poking its head out of the backpack and everything. It's really cute. If this isn't, it should be a stuffed animal that is flying off the shelves. Number 1, of course, the Mosasaurus. Would make for a less cute stuffed animal, but this thing is awesome. It's terrifying. It's truly one of the best editions of these new Jurassic movies, and this movie utilizes it better than the previous ones. So my final rankings of the Jurassic movies, again, all 9 of them. Number 9, Jurassic Park 3. It's a generic monster movie that's just dumb and not that exciting. Number 8, the Jurassic World Dominion Prologue. While it's kind of neat to see a glimpse into Cretaceous life, this just really doesn't serve much of a purpose as a short film, and it doesn't add a whole lot as part of an extended cut either. Number 7, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Shockingly dumb, but occasionally quite amusing. Number 6, Jurassic World Dominion. Big swings, big misses, but some fun stuff. Number 5, Jurassic World Rebirth. In terms of the action and the look of the movie, it's probably the best since the original, but I just can't get over the writing and the unnecessary characters like the family. Plus, it features the worst hybrid dinosaurs in the entire series, and I'm not a fan of the hybrids to begin with. Number 4, The Lost World Jurassic Park. Hate on this movie all you want, I get it, but the long grass scene and the wrangling of the herbivores are incredible. I also really appreciate the adventure feel of this movie, and that goes right down to the safari technology. It feels high-tech without being too unbelievable or science fiction-y. Number 3, Jurassic World. Not as satirical as it should have been, very dumb, annoying in a lot of ways, but man, that fight at the end, I love it. Number 2, Battle at Big Rock. This is probably what the series should have become at a certain point. And number 1, obviously the original Jurassic Park. It's the only one here that's genuinely great. Most of the others are mediocre, if not worse. And as a bonus, a top 10 creatures featured in the Jurassic franchise. Number 10, my personal favorite dinosaur, the Parasaurolophus. Gets a lovely sequence in The Lost World Jurassic Park, featured a little bit in Dominion as well. Number 9, the Triceratops. Who could forget the scene of the sick Triceratops in the first one? Also love seeing it rampage through the camp in The Lost World, but is pretty underutilized the rest of the series for being arguably the most iconic herbivore dinosaur. Number 7, the Pachycephalosaurus / Stygimoloch. Again, the Stygimoloch may or may not be a unique species, might be a subspecies. Never heavily featured, but always amusing when on screen. Just such a unique skill set. Number 6, the Dilophosaurus. Terrifying. Of course, the Dilophosaurus never actually spat that stuff, but who cares? It's a fun, terrifying thing to include in the movies. Underutilized throughout the series, as the series went to be really just T-Rex, Velociraptor centric. Number 5, the Stegosaurus. Don't have too much to say about this one, just a classic dinosaur, and I love the sense of scale you get of it in The Lost World. Number 4, the Brachiosaurus. Just like Stegosaurus, it's wonderful to have one of the few actual Jurassic dinosaurs here in this top 10. The Brachiosaurus sequence of wonder in the original is just so memorable. Yeah, we get bigger sauropods later in the series, but the scenes are never as good as those Brachiosaurus scenes from the first one. Number 3, the Mosasaurus, the only non-dinosaur in this top 10. The Mosasaurus was such a fun addition to the Jurassic World films. It works as a really fun theme park attraction, sort of just in the background. It works as a compelling and terrifying aquatic creature whose size is just insurmountable. You always knew which were going to be the top 2, but number 2, I have the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Consistent, reliable, just wish it hadn't run through San Diego. And number 1, Velociraptor. They actually managed to give one of the Velociraptors a real character, and it's not great, but it's one of the memorable things about the Jurassic World movies, and just every time these guys pop up in those first 2 movies, it's just awesome. That long grass scene, the scene in the kitchen is probably my favorite scene in the entire franchise as well. So, Velociraptor, here's to you, my friend.